Hey everyone, my name is Aaron and welcome back to my series on A Course in Miracles, episode 3. In today's video, I want to talk about one of the most foundational teachings in the Course, which just has so much depth to it. I think the Course is such an incredible book because every single line of the Course is just packed with layer upon layer of truth. Sometimes when I read the Course, a certain passage will just hit me so freaking hard that I'll just kind of slam the book shut and tilt my head back and find that laughter rolls out or tears or whatever the reaction is. And so I started to call these Coursegasms. And I have a couple of friends in particular who read the Course that I'll just send hashtag Coursegasm and paste the quote because I know they're going to get it. So I wanted to share one of these with you guys today. In chapter 18, the Course says, "The kingdom of heaven is the dwelling place of the Son of God, who left not his Father and dwells not apart from him. Heaven is not a place nor a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness and the knowledge that there is nothing else." As the Course states, the ego is the belief in separation, and the belief in separation is a genetically hardwired belief that comes pre-installed into the biology of the human mind. And this is why the Course continually teaches that God sees all of us as innocent. We are the way in which God knows himself, and it is for this reason that the entire universe exists. But in order for anything to be experienced, there has to be some kind of contrast, and the ego provides this contrast and serves as the catalyst that drives us all to seek for our true nature. When suffering stops, seeking stops, because enlightenment, as defined by the Buddha, is simply the end of suffering. Peace is not a state of consciousness we achieve through an act of effort. It is simply the absence of suffering. Peace is what is left when no incorrect thinking is there. So what this passage is saying is that you have never been separate from the Source, except for as an idea in your mind. So I want to explore the idea that what religion has historically called heaven and hell are not geographic locations we go to once we die, but states of consciousness that we access, and you are either living in one or the other. When we live from a state of consciousness where we are aware of our perfect oneness with the divine, we are in heaven. When we live from a state of consciousness where we are aware of separation from the Source, we are in hell. So heaven is peace, and hell is suffering. So in this way, the ego is an effect, not a cause. And the cause of the ego effect is the belief in separation. When we believe that we are separate, the effect is the voice of the ego. And the voice of the ego is the cause of all human suffering. And when I say suffering, I mean psychological suffering, not physical pain. And so suffering ultimately arises when we believe that what happens to me is an attack on who I am, an attack on my value. And so the idea that I want to put forward is that all suffering is ultimately a belief in separation at some level. And all peace or healing comes from our remembrance of oneness. The Course teaches that the will of God is to bring heaven to earth. But how does that happen? It only happens when you and I become aware of heaven within ourselves. And how do we know when we've become aware of heaven within ourselves? Whenever we feel peace. Out of peace arises every good thing. Love, joy, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, and so forth. All of these things are sort of the fragrance of our true nature. But none of these fragrances can be there if peace is not there first. Because peace is the foundation for all things godly. Because peace is the nature of oneness. That which is one is perfect and complete. That which is one is eternal. It's not searching for anything. It's not missing any pieces. It is invincible. It is perfectly content. So let's consider something for a moment. What if the entire purpose of creation is ultimately feelings? because our experience says that it is. Nothing that we attain or experience in the entire physical universe would mean anything to us apart from the feelings that it gives us. We wouldn't even want to attain a state of oneness with the divine if it didn't bring us a feeling of peace. If it brought us suffering, we wouldn't want it. And so in a deeper sense, the feelings of love, joy, and peace are actually the ways in which God knows itself. It is the way in which God can taste what its true nature is like. And so what oneness ultimately means is that the exact experience that you are having right now is the exact same experience that God is having. You are the lens through which God is looking, and the mirror in which God can behold himself. And so this is why when we suffer, we have a natural desire to move away from it. We desire freedom from emotions like fear, anger, anxiety, and depression because they are in opposition to our true nature. And so feeling them also allows the source to understand what it is like. So when you feel love or compassion for someone else, in that moment, you are in heaven. When you feel joy in any moment, you are in heaven. So we can summarize by saying that hell is when I am out of alignment with my true nature, and heaven is when I am in alignment with my true nature. And as the Course would say, our true nature is peace. And so how can we be sure that this is true? Simply by checking with our life experience and seeing that no matter what we attain without peace, it is meaningless. Peace is what all of us want more than anything else. The rich and the famous spend millions of dollars trying to find peace. People take drugs, go on vacations, chase relationships, possessions, jobs, experiences, all to find something that can never be found outside of themselves. In one famous passage, Jesus said, "Change the way you think, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." So if the kingdom of heaven is the awareness of perfect oneness, then the only thing which can block us from realizing it is our thinking. And now, not all thinking is bad. Jesus is pointing to a specific type of thinking. You guessed it, the belief in separation. Every thought the ego creates is ultimately a means to intensify the belief in separation. As I often say, guilt is the ego's primary weapon. If the ego can convince us that we or someone else is guilty, it triggers our biology's fight or flight system and we feel a negative emotion. Without emotions, we would never know when we were thinking incorrectly. But the way we think is not the ultimate point itself, but the experience of oneness that it leads us to. We tend to think that what we want is happiness, because we believe that happiness is a state of experiencing continual pleasure and no pain on a permanent basis. But the flow of life will always be a mixture of pleasure and pain. And so I think we could all admit that if happiness means constant pleasure and no pain, then happiness is not possible to achieve in this lifetime. But what the Course teaches is that what we're actually looking for is peace. True happiness is simply a state of unbroken inner peace of mind. And peace is not contingent on the flow of life being pleasure or pain. It is simply a silence of being. It is a feeling of deep internal rest and completeness about who I am. And so what we all really want is to quench this aching sense of incompleteness about who I am on the inside. And that is what peace is. So the question is then, how do we attain inner peace? And the answer that I would submit to you, based upon my own experience and what the Course teaches, is that you simply have to stop looking for completion outside of yourself. The Course says that it's ultimately God we are all looking for, and the Son of God cannot be separate from his Father. But to some people, God is a red Ferrari. To other people, God is fame and fortune. And so whatever represents heaven on earth to you becomes your God. And these are what the Course calls idols. Idols are our attachments to certain things or outcomes that we believe can complete us. and it all stems from the deeply held negative core belief that I am incomplete because I am separate. And it is only this belief that needs to be corrected in order to have peace. And so, as the Course states, behind the search for every idol lies the yearning for completion. To seek a special person or a thing to add to you to make yourself complete can only mean that you believe some form is missing. And by finding this, you will achieve completion in a form that you like. This is the purpose of an idol, that you will not look beyond it, to the source of the belief that you are incomplete. So peace is essentially feeling complete with who I am. This is the awareness of oneness. But if the belief is in place that I am incomplete, then the natural result is that I have to then look for my completion in outcomes. And this is what the Course defines as idol worship. Outcome-based happiness, as I often say, is just a hamster wheel that you will never get off of. Because, as we know, nothing in the material universe can ever provide you lasting fulfillment. And so what we really need is simply to call off the search. Because peace is literally the byproduct of not looking for peace. Peace is your true nature. And so you no longer need to search for peace once you know that you are peace. But unfortunately, this isn't something you can just stop doing once you finish this video, because it's never actually you that searches for completion, but the ego. And remember, the ego is an effect. As long as the belief is in place that I am separate, therefore I am incomplete, then a part of your mind will always be searching for completion automatically. And so it's not actually the ego that's the problem, but the belief in separation. And so this is exactly why the Course says that the kingdom of heaven is the awareness of perfect oneness, because what you seek is already inside of you. It's not missing or lost. You simply have to become aware of it. And so what happens on this journey of self-realization is that we start to become increasingly aware of the ego's thoughts. And what a lot of my clients will tell me is that they start to feel like there's two voices in their head and they're going crazy. One voice is saying, "Come on, you need to get that job or else you can't be happy, boo-hoo." And another voice is saying, "Wait a minute, that's not true, and if you believe that, you're going to suffer." This is the arising of true intelligence. As the Course calls it, the Holy Spirit. The truth is that you had always been crazy and you're just now becoming aware of it. So it's not something to become afraid of, but to become excited about. Because the truth is that when you hear an unconscious thought pattern speaking in your mind for the first time, what's actually happening in that moment is that the light of heaven is breaking through the clouds and illuminating the darkness of the unconscious mind. Heaven is a clarity of mind that allows us to easily distinguish the difference between the voice of the ego and the voice of God. Whenever you catch the ego speaking, that's because you became a little more aware of your perfect oneness. An awareness of oneness makes the voice of separation stand out stronger. The true self knows no separation, no lack, and no self to protect against anything. Just perfect oneness. And so peace comes with this realization that I will never find my completion outside of myself. I could search for 1,000 years and never find it. This realization, when truly seen, is an atom bomb of bliss. What a burden to be lifted. Imagine how you would feel if you lived your life without the need to search for fulfillment in external things. As one of my favorite lines in the Course says, "There is nothing outside of you. That is what you must ultimately learn, for it is this realization that the kingdom of heaven is restored to you." So when Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," what he was really saying is, you are the kingdom of heaven. It's within you because it is you. After all, what is the oneness we become aware of? Is it not our true nature, our true self? The Course says, "Those who seek the light are merely covering their eyes. The light is in them now. Enlightenment is but a recognition, not a change at all. The kingdom of heaven is not a place, but a state of being, the highest reality. You are the kingdom of heaven, because whenever you remember who you are, there is peace. The Course says, there is a place in you where this world has been forgotten, where no memory of sin or illusion lingers still. There is a place in you which time has left, and echoes of eternity are heard. There is a resting place so still that no sound but a hymn from heaven rises up to gladden God the Father and the Son. And where they are is heaven and is peace.